here's Brody Brazil.
I'll just tell you straight away with this video, it's all my instinct, it's all my educated opinion, and there is somebody pretty prominent who absolutely agrees with me. We'll get to that in just a second. But I'm here to say that Shohei Ohtani, for the upcoming 2025 Major League Baseball season with the Dodgers, he should not pitch. He should only hit. He can be a position player. That's fine if he wants to get out there in the field, but he can be a DH so long as he's not pitching. I think that's best for him. I think that's best for the game of baseball. I think that's best for all parties involved. Oh yeah, including his team, the Dodgers. And if you don't want to just take it from this BB, why don't you take it from a more relevant BB?
And then he's going to pitch again this year.
I think he needs to stay at DH and do what he does best.
You think so?
He's a great. That's going to tire him out. I think it's just too much on him. I think what he does and what he brings to that team right now, why change something that's going great? I think maybe come in as a reliever because he's so solid, so hard throwing. He's got that great slider, split and everything. It's great. Come in, throw an inning or two or something, but maintain what you do well.
Barry Bonds. That's the other BB. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait, a former Giant commenting on the success and strategy of the Los Angeles Dodgers. But no, you can see it. Like, Bonds had a really great interview. By the way, shout out to Foul Territory and the great chat they had with Barry Bonds there at the New York Writers Dinner, the 100th annual New York Baseball Writers Dinner. It said some great stuff, but obviously as they focused on Ohtani, I totally agree what Barry is saying about Shohei Ohtani. For the good of the game, for the good of Shohei's career, and the Dodgers just won the World Series. And 5 different reasons here I'll give you why Ohtani should just hit this year and not pitch at all. The first has to be he's coming off a World Series victory and the first 50-50 season ever. 50 dingers, 50 swipes. He was able to put a full season into just hitting, right? He knew he'd be recovering for the second time from the Tommy John surgery. So all he really had to do last year, I say that like it sounds easy, just come to the ballpark and hit. And he did that. And then about halfway through the season, I think, when it became quite clear that he would not really have to worry about pitching, like the pitching progress wasn't going to time out by the end of the season, then he started stealing bases. And he kind of put together that 50-50 season, I feel like, because he didn't know if he'd ever have another chance at it again. If you're pitching, right, there's going to be some rest days. We'll talk about that in a second. It obviously wears you down, but for the sake of the team, you're just not going to be able to play as many games. It's going to go down from 150-something to 130-something easy just by pitching games. But he did something, again, that nobody in baseball had ever done before. Yeah, Jose was the first, Canseco, to get to 40-40, and some others have done it since, but Shohei Ohtani was the first ever 50-50. As Barry mentioned, why interrupt this kind of productivity? If it ain't broke, what are you trying to fix right now? The Dodgers have a pitching staff. They've got a good bullpen. They are surrounded by a ton of talent they paid for. And so long as Ohtani's just doing his part that he's being rewarded handsomely for, then that's what you want to get out of it. You do not want to mess with this when it's going absolutely the right direction. Pitching, if anything else, or I should say, if nothing else, it's going to wear you down. If you can avoid injuries, if you can work out the logistics of playing and not playing and all that stuff, at the very least, this is going to wear Ohtani down, especially coming off the season he just did. Let's get to point number 2 here, reasons why that I think Ohtani should not pitch this year. The arm versus the bat. Right, so in 2019 with the Angels, he didn't pitch at all that year, but he obviously did hit. It's very similar to what he just did in 2024. That's right, Shohei Ohtani twice now has come back from Tommy John surgery. Now, we know he's the exception to pretty much every rule, but how many players come back successfully and pitch after 2 Tommy Johns? Right, he missed all of last year pitching. I say missed at pitching. He did something phenomenal with the bat. And that's also even more impressive, what he did offensively last year, 50-50 plus, while recovering from Tommy John surgery at the same time. But the next arm injury, like we can talk about the 2 TJs, the next arm injury or elbow injury or shoulder injury, which I fear for this. I certainly hope it doesn't happen, obviously. But the next one might prevent him from hitting. The other 2 Tommy John recoveries, they allowed him to hit. Whatever another injury might be, he may not be so lucky, and I'm using the air quotes generously there, So is risking it for 25 starts, and look, his pitching stats the last season he did, 2023, they were really good with the Angels, but is 25 starts or appearances, is that worth potentially taking his bat out of the Dodgers lineup on an everyday basis? I don't know. The arm versus the bat, that's kind of a hard gamble to make there. Now, Barry mentioned maybe just make him a reliever. I know that sounds like the easier thing to do, but I'm not sure that's the easier thing to do. Starting seems easier on the schedule and logistics, and you can plan a start 3 days ahead, then you can plan rest. What happens if he comes into a game and pitches 3 innings in relief? Is he like a long reliever? Is he a setup guy? How do you define his role? And then how do you make that work with, DHing and playing any other position that he does? Relief appearances, I think, would be tougher on the whole coaching staff to try and figure this out. It would be more sporadic. And I don't know that it just works like that. Because then if you're a reliever, you got to be used even more frequently. So lineup changes, double switches, headaches. Again, starting is easier on everybody, and anticipation and planning and scheduling, but it's not easier in terms of the actual game strategy and planning it out for Shohei Ohtani. I'm not sure. And I've thought about this too. I'm not sure he could actually be a reliever in games, come into games, start in games, come into games and pitch, and then continue to stay in the game. Let's talk about pitching rest, right? So maintaining health, great. Let's hope that for Ohtani if he does pitch. But pitching means recovery. You can't get out there and throw 103 pitches on a Friday night and maybe expect to be back in there on a Saturday hitting again. Recovery means missing extra days in the lineup. Like I just said, maybe you're not playing that Saturday day game at Dodger Stadium if you pitched on Friday night. So now you're taking Ohtani's bat out of the lineup at least one day per week. Now, he can pitch and hit in the same game, but the next day you're trying to recover the body. And you can't have him in there hitting and playing and say, hey, recover at the same time. It just doesn't work like that. So if he took an extra 20 days off per year after 20 starts, hypothetically, and if you pitch all season, it's more like 30 starts. But if he had 20 extra games off per year, like last year, could he still have been a 50-50 player? No. He had extra games to spare. He had basically a whole month last year, almost a month to spare after he got to 50-50. But the point is, if you take away 20 games because he just has to sit down and rest, he can't get back to 50-50 or be as productive as you want Ohtani to be with the bat. And last season, honestly, it made all of this now a difficult decision because he went off, right? He had such a good first season with the Dodgers at the plate that it makes this now here very difficult. If he was just okay, then you're like, all right, well, it's part of the complete package, and this is what he does, and you'll get even more out of him, but you got so much out of him. It makes it difficult now. It's like, do you want to just keep that going, or do you want to actually try for more? And that brings me here to my fifth and final point. It's like a want versus need situation here. How much do the Dodgers just want him to do this, and how much do the Dodgers actually need his services? He's yet to pitch for the Dodgers, right? So that kind of plays in here subconsciously, and pitching was part of the deal. The contract he signed, all that deferred money, all the total money, was it $700 million basically for the rest of his playing days? And you'd have to think for the Dodgers, all of this too was part of the marketing plan. Here's a guy that is baseball's unicorn. We don't have anybody else in the game that's doing what he's doing. Well, you also don't have a 50-50 player, but now you do. I would hope that it's so much more than the marketing plan for the Dodgers to say, well, we got to get him out there and have him pitch because, well, that's just what he does, and that's what people want to see. Number one, don't risk his health. And number two, don't risk your own team's success because you want him to do even more. And do it just for show and do it for marketing and do it for fans. Do not do that, please. If you really need Ohtani to pitch games for you and you can convince me of that, okay. I can be sold on that, but I need to be convinced. As of right now, I can't find, based on who the Dodgers are, the other pitchers they have, both starters and relievers, bullpens and the starting pitchers, I don't see a real for sure reason why they need him to do this. Do the Dodgers need Ohtani pitching? In 2023, with the Halos, and again, all these stats are skewed because the record is a team stat, honestly, when you're a starting pitcher. 3.14 ERA and 132 innings pitched. Granted, he's not in the 160, 190 innings pitched range. You kind of have to tone him down, but that's still a pretty good season. I think if you're the Dodgers, you probably want that, but you can also get that from almost any one of your other starters you'd like to think. So if you don't listen to me, listen to Barry Lamar Bonds. By the way, it's good to see, and I know Dodger fans who are watching this video like, we don't want to hear from Barry Bonds. It's good to hear Barry excited about the game and talking to the media, but the media is Foul Territory is not really the media. That's such a good show. Check them out here on YouTube. I've been a guest and a frequent watcher of Foul Territory. Such a good program, such good guests, and such good conversation. Part of it is this: Ohtani pitching next year or not? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Also, while you're down there, thumbs up on this video helps me and this video and this channel. And one more thing, speaking of the channel, don't forget to go down there and subscribe. That way I can definitely see you back here next time.